I'm going to show you how to make some French style beignets. These are not the same kind like they have in New Orleans, which are delicious, but these are just phenomenal. They're light and airy, and once you start eating them, you just can't stop. I had them at a restaurant a few times, and I have been obsessed with them ever since. So let's get started. What you're going to need for this will be 1 cup of water, 1 cup of flour, 7 tablespoons of butter. I use salted butter. If you use unsalted, then you'll have to add a pinch of salt to your recipe. And you'll also need 1 tablespoon of sugar and 3 eggs and lemons cut into quarters. Something helpful for this recipe would definitely be a deep fry thermometer, unless you have a deep fryer, because we want to keep the temperature steady at 320 degrees. If you cook these in oil much hotter than that or any hotter than that, they will not puff up like they're supposed to. So really, this is kind of essential. This 1 tablespoon cookie scooper is helpful, but it's not something you have to have. And a food processor is also helpful, but you could also do without that. All right, let's get started. We're going to start with a small, heavy gauge type of pan with rounded edges are preferable, but if you don't have that, it's not a deal breaker. You're going to add your cup of water, your 7 tablespoons of butter, and your tablespoon of sugar. And right now we're just going to put it on high because we're trying to bring it to a boil. All right, and the goal here is to get this up to a rolling boil. So that's going to take a few minutes. Now you can see that my butter and water and sugar mixture are really at a rolling boil. And that's definitely how far I want it to go. I don't just want a few bubbles here. I want the stuff to really be boiling. And now you can turn the heat off. The next step, you just add all of your flour at one time and beat it into the water. Make sure your heat is turned off right now. Now this next step, what you want to do is you want to dry this mixture out a little bit to get rid of any kind of stickiness in the dough and to get it really cohesive, sticking together. And for that, we're going to turn the heat back on and we're going to put it on medium-low, and you're just going to stir it around. It's been 2 minutes and now my dough has less of a shine on it, and we're ready to put it in the food processor. So we're putting the dough in the food processor and kind of spreading it out. If you don't have a food processor, then what you would want to do is take the dough out and leave it in a bowl for 5 minutes to cool off, and then go ahead and mix it with a wooden spoon. But it's a lot easier to do it in the food processor. Make sure you have your dough attachment, not your normal blade. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let this cool off a little bit for 5 minutes, because we don't want to cook the egg yolks when we add them and have them curdle. The dough's been in the food processor for 5 minutes, and now we are ready to start adding our 3 eggs. So lightly mix your 3 eggs so they're mixed together. I'm going to put the lid of the food processor on, and we're going to pass the eggs through the feeder tube. pour all 3 eggs in at one time. I'm going to use the pulse function. So I'm going to pulse it real lightly. Now that it's kind of mixed up, I'm going to go for longer. Now you check your dough and make sure it's a uniform consistency. And if it is, now you're ready to do this little choux pastry test that my mother taught me. And my mom was a wonderful cook, so this is kind of cool. You take your fingers and you pinch a little bit of dough between your fingers, and then you pull it up. And when you pull it up, if the points bend a little bit, top and bottom, then you know that it's ready. If the points just fall over, then your dough is too liquidy and you need to add a little bit more flour to the dough. And if it is too hard and it's just very stiff, then you'll have to add a little bit more egg. So hopefully you won't run into that. Okay. Now we're ready to deep fry these beignets. So you want to put a good amount of oil into whatever pan you're using so that the beignets will be submerged, and they will puff up to about 3 times their normal size. So you really want to make sure that your oil is deep enough for that. The most important thing with this is that you have to make sure that your oil is no hotter than 320 degrees. So that's why I'm using this. If you have a deep fryer, set it to 320. If it gets higher than that, the beignets will not puff up and they will be ruined. We want to have some paper towels set out on a plate to put the beignets on when they're done frying and sitting here. And then we want a strainer that we're going to use to put powdered sugar on top. And just put it over a plate so the powdered sugar will go into the plate if it spills out at all. You're going to need something to take the beignets out of the fryer with. I really like this handy dandy tool. And then you might need a long fork to turn the beignets around as they're cooking. All right, so we're almost at 320 now on the thermometer. So now we're ready to start dropping the dough in there. So I take this 1 tablespoon cookie scoop and I kind of have it level at the top. And I just drop them in. Now, if you don't have that, they won't be as uniform, but they'll still taste good. And I'm going to drop about 10 of them in here because I have a lot of oil. Now, these have been going a few minutes. My temperature got above 320, so I had to turn everything off to get it back down. So just make sure that you stay below 320 because otherwise, the way these are puffing up and cracking, that will not happen. They'll just stay small. Now that these beignets are the right kind of dark golden color, it's time to take them out. So you use your little tool to get them out and put them on the paper towels to get rid of any excess oil. And you can see they really puffed up like they were supposed to. So just make sure you stay under 320 until they've really puffed up. So now that we've dried them out a bit, you can put them on a nice plate. And we definitely have to sprinkle them with powdered sugar, because as you saw, this recipe has hardly any sugar in it, 1 tablespoon. At the restaurant where I had these, they squeeze them with lemon, which is totally not anything that you would do with a New Orleans beignet, but it really works for this. So it's an optional step, but put some lemon slices on there so people can squeeze it on there. And bon appetit!